The next video we're going to go over is going to cover the config templating system. First, we're going to look at this menu, which is Manage Files, Manage Your Generated Config Files. So I'm going to first delete this out. These were 26 configs that I generated already. And it's actually 26 configs, actual configs. And then there's this CSV file that's always going to be called node name config name header removed, and that's just used. It's basically two columns that's used as a dictionary, like a key value. The key being the name of the node that it connects to, and the value being the name of the config file, and they're always one and the same. That's just used for if you actually push these configs out to the network to program the network, which you don't have to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first just delete and clear it out so there's no generated config templates at this point. And then what we'll do is go over each one of these files. So we'll look at a Jinja 2 reference template. So for those that are familiar with Jinja 2, this is going to be very straightforward for you. You're already familiar with it. So I'll go ahead and open this reference template. So what I did is I just downloaded this reference template that you can download. And we'll even blow this up here. And if there were multiple templates, of course, you could zip them all up and download it. So now I'm just looking in VS Code here in text editor that what you can see is a Jinja 2 template, if you're not already familiar with it, is basically a file that has the extension of .j2. It's basically a templating format that you build it. It looks just like a config. Like here, we're looking at a Cisco config, and depending, it's not Cisco, it's vendor agnostic. So it's basically whatever your config looks like, and then you just build variables, and your variables are denoted by double opening, closed curly braces, and then you just give your variables a name, and the name could be anything. It's whatever you want to name your variables, and then that's where you're going to create your variables using a almost no-code approach, where instead of like using a YAML format that has indentation and is syntax specific, we'll build our variables in Excel using a CSV format. And so basically we're using just a very simple example here. So this is a little Cisco config, and it's got host name, loop number, interface 1 address, and the mask. So essentially, this is what a Jinja 2 template looks like. It could be any config for any vendor, and then whatever is going to be a variable that you just give it a name inside of open and close double curly braces. And that pretty much is it. So now we'll look at what a variables file looks like for these three variables. And you can download a reference template here. So you can download the Jinja 2 reference here, download a blank CSV reference template, and we'll download that right now. And we'll open that in Excel, and it actually has all those same variables, and we'll blow that up. So you'll see what it's got is that host underscore name, loop underscore number, interface 1 underscore address, or INTF1 underscore mask. So essentially the name of the variable is the column header. And then this column A is what is going to be used to generate that another spreadsheet that you'll never see, but it's basically, it's on the back end. It's that other file that we first looked at, that no name, no header, or let me actually get the exact name of that file. Well, once we generate configs, we'll take a look at it because I've deleted it. This is basically used where it builds a separate spreadsheet if you're pushing the configs out to the network, where it looks at column A, and that's the name, the host name of the node that it connects to, and then column B is actually the name of the config file. So the config file we generate is one and the same. It's basically two columns that look the same. And we'll even just do it as an example here. So let's just say we'll create R1, we'll create R2, and then we'll just quickly let Excel build that up for us. And then all you do here is again, it becomes super easy because you're just working in Excel. So whatever you have for column A, you just copy that and give it the exact same parameters in column B, because basically one is going to be the name of the node that you connect to. This will be the name of the config file. And once we generate the configs, you'll see, and that's basically if you choose to push these configs out to the network and program it through Neural. And then we'll just go loop 1, 2, and then we'll do the same thing here. We'll just generate a bunch of loopbacks here. And then we can do the same .1, and we'll just do it real quick here. 1.2, and we'll see if hopefully Excel will just auto increment those for us. Yes, good. And then we'll just go 255.0.0.0. So I've just saved that, and what we'll do here is we'll just go back and so this just gives you an example of how easy it is to essentially you're always going to have your column A is going to always have this particular, I'll even bold this out. It's always going to have this particular SSH underscore IP or host name, and that's actually just you're going to put your host name in there, and then you'll match it here. And then whatever variables you create here, you're going to create here. So no matter what, you're always going to need to create a host underscore name variable and an SSH underscore IP or underscore host name. And those will just always be your host name. And that's the only rule you need to follow. And I'll repeat that again. These columns will always be named the same in A and B, and they will be the host name in both columns. That will be identical. In one will actually be the host name that it connects to, not IP, even though IP is in the name there. Don't pay attention to that, but it's going to be the host name. And then the second column B will actually be the name of the config file. And when we generate configs in a minute here, it'll make more sense because I'll show you that those generated configs and what the file names are. And then you just give values for your variables. So what I'm going to do is actually just show you from this is actually on the back end here. I'm gonna show you the actual the CSV variables that are this is actually one that's uploaded to the system already. So you'll see here it's essentially got a host name here, the same host name here for columns A and B. These are just in CSV format. And then you've got the same values here, the loop number, interface address, and mask. So we've got a bunch of different variables here. So that's going to merge with that Jinja template here. So we're going to see a host name and then the host name variable, interface loop, the loop number, the IP address, and mask. So we'll basically get a completed config times all of these values here. So essentially it's going to be 26 different configs, and then there'll also be that spreadsheet that basically is that we've talked about that is used to that just has the two columns that references the column A is the node it connects to, column B is the config file it opens and runs those commands for that node, and if you choose to push it out to the network. So now what we're going to do, since we've looked at what the actual CSV, the variables look like on the back end, we can even look at them in the neural interface, in the web interface. So if I go to push configs to the network, if I go to generate configs, I'm going to choose this variables file that we were looking at so we can view the variables. So this is that particular variables file. Then if we'll see again, I've deleted the generated configs when we first started the video. So you'll see there's no generated config templates currently. If I go to generate configs, I can upload a CSV variable file. So I'll click on that. So I can give it a name, put uploaded by, I would put uploaded by, my own name, and then choose a file, and I could browse for a file on my local file system. So I could upload that CSV that I just created in Excel, but we'll use the CSV that's already been uploaded, but basically just give it a name, and then give it a file name, and give and that should match your actual CSV file name, for example. So, but you do have to fill that in here, and then you choose your file as well and browse for it on the local file system, and then just click upload. And then you'll notice here, after you click upload, you'll automatically be directed to the config gen page, which is this page. So at that point, you would, if I would have uploaded an additional CSV with variables filled in, we would have an additional one here. But we'll use that Cisco demo file. You can look at that variables file one more time. So we'll see that it's going to be building configs, basically index 0 through 25. So it'll build 26 configs with the config name of the config file will be this column here. That'll be the host name in the config, and then these will be the loopback numbers, and then the IP address and masks. So we'll go back here. We'll choose that CSV file. We'll choose that .j2 Cisco demo. That's the Jinja 2 template, which is going to be this template here. And then we just click generate configs. And that's how quick it literally in less than a second, sub-second generated the 26 configs. And the reason, again, I say that it shows 27 here is it's got this node name, config name header removed. And basically what it is just what it sounds like. It's got the node name and the config name, so the node that it's going to connect to, and the config name of the config that it's going to read commands from if you were to push it out to the network with the headers removed. And so again, if we download that again and take one more look at it, you'll see it's just opening up here now. So there you go. That's all it is. It's just this, it's basically columns that are exactly the same. Node name that it's going to connect to, name of the config file. And now that we've generated it, let's just look at it at a config file. We can download it, and we'll look at it in the folder here. We'll open it with VS Code, and there's an example of the very first one. It's interface loop 673 10.127 0.1 with the mask. So what it does is it gives us a full running config that we can actually push out to the network. If we had IP connectivity to the device and we were generating configs that we actually wanted to push out to the network, you might just be generating config templates that you're going to zip up and provide to somebody on site, for example, in a greenfield deployment where you don't actually have routed connectivity and or the ability to authenticate to a device to push it out from Neural, for example. So there's many different uses for config templating system. But you see the config is there and fully generated. And I'm going to go back into Neural here. And if we zip it all up, we can zip them all up. And we can even show in the folder. We can unzip it with 7-zip. We'll extract files here. And there's all those configs. What we can do is actually, I'll just open up another couple of them so you can see. There's 10.127 0.4 and for US DAL-switch 4. So you can see that's the name of the config. That would also be the name of the node that it connects to. We'll even just open up. Let's open up the very last one. We'll open it up with VS Code here. 10.127 0.26. with /24. Then after you've generated your configs, so you can download individual files, delete individual files, delete all files, zip them up as we've seen, or you can push it to the network. Then you would just choose your time sleep and push it to the network. That would build that dictionary of column A, the node that you connect to column B in that spreadsheet. It would do a for loop over those, every line in that config. So you would be able to basically do unique automation. That's why we call this unique automation up here in the slug part of the URL. And now I could actually go in under my particular area, my admin's tasks. I could view my config templates, and click on that one more time. There's my config templates, and again, it's all paginatable. Paginates them all, or I can delete them all. I'll refresh that, and they're all gone. So other than that, I'm going to recap here, which is basically you go to generate configs. You can upload a CSV file here. Once you've uploaded your CSV, which contains your variables that have, and the CSV has the column headers that match that. Column A and B always remain the same, and then these are the three variables that are unique. And the variable names here are going to always be unique, starting at column C, based on what your Jinja 2 template looks like. So if we look back in our Jinja 2 template again, as we see, we've basically got these three unique variables. And that will do it. Thank you.